lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be talking about an issue of The Brave and the Bold, the series that was in 2007, I believe it was launched, and it was done by Mark Waid, George Pérez. In the beginning, it was kind of one issue would lead into the next. Phenomenal run. I was itching for some George Pérez stuff, and I hadn't read this in a while, so I thought I'd read it again for the channel. And really cool one and done stories that connect within an overall arc. I have to look for the rest of them. I was just like going through some stuff and I ended up finding this one, so I thought I'd talk about it. It's the Flash and Doom Patrol in this one. Great cover. I love this. The look on Wally's face as he's zooming in, all of their faces. Flash, only you can save us from them. Again, these type of covers, I think I mentioned it recently on a different episode when I was going through some comics, is I love these covers that tell a story. And I really love when there's actually dialogue on the cover too, because it's just something fun. I think it's something that's missing in comics. I think it's like it makes it stand out on the stands, kind of makes you intrigued and want to check out more. And when I was flipping through my books, it made me want to read it again. So it definitely did its job. And we jump in immediately, and we're with Wally. And at this point in DC continuity, I believe Mark Waid was writing Flash. He had come back, and his twin kids were back from. I think they were in like a different planet, so their powers are all wonky. Them being born on a different planet kind of gave them this it added to their abilities in a weird way, and so they're in danger of possibly dying, I think, and it also aged them too. Kind of similar to what happened to Bart Allen when he was before he became Impulse, when he came back. So kind of connected there, because Mark Waid also created Bart Allen too, and I don't want to say it's similar origin, but a little bit of the same. And we open up at the headquarters of the Challengers of Unknown. Rocky comes in. He's like, Red, what is that you're reading? Are you checking to see who shot JFK yet? And he's literally reading the story of what we're reading. So Rocky tells me, he's like, you got to get out of here, dude. You gotta leave. We're living on borrowed time, all outside the book. And so he leaves, and then Rocky now becomes obsessed and has to read the story. So, we pan out. We're at the West's house, and he's tearing up a letter. And who is it from? Niles Calder of the Doom Patrol. And he's been a character that some have said is he's created the experiment or the catastrophes that have led to the Doom Patrol being created. And so he's not exactly the greatest of guys. I mean, he's kind of like the Professor X, but I would say a little bit more douchey. So he keeps bugging Wally and Linda because he wants to, quote unquote, help their kids and figure out a way to make their unstable powers kind of okay again. And he's like, whoever it is, and Linda's like, whoever he is, don't we owe it to them to hear him out? And Iris and Jay are spying underneath. She's vibrating through under the ground. He's like, no, they're not coming anywhere near our kids. And then I love this line, well, he's a doctor. So is Frankenstein. And he was less manipulative, honey. She's not understanding because the Doom Patrol are heroes. And how could he be a part of that if, he's not a good guy? She convinces him okay, fine, let's hear him out. And they go on their way. I love this, these two panels of him saying, let's suit up, and just watching the costume come out. We don't get to see that as much. And I love the Flash ring. I love that concept of him being able to shrink it down to size with, because it's made with a certain chemical, and shrinking it into the ring. Love this too, this lightning bolt. And then we immediately get transported to the headquarters, and it looks like Frankenstein's castle. It looks creepy as hell. They're often called freaks, the Doom Patrol. They're not, they're not the godlike looking heroes, right? So they're definitely looked upon differently. And as they come, even the kids are fucking creeped out by this dude. Look at him. The way that they have his eyes sunken in the shadow over his face. So that, little bit of stuff in terms of the characters. We see Rita, aka Elastigirl, and she's always smiling, always trying to put on a front. We get to see some of the Doom Patrol and their personalities come out in this sense. Without having to know too much about them, you can get a feel for who they are based on their appearances in here. So Rita takes them off to kind of look at the castle, and he's like, what I have to say concerns their future. So they go. We hear, there's lightning going on outside. And as they're going through the house, I love this shot that they're running and pulling her arms, and then this outstretch. Such a cool visual effect that George did. He really is one of the greatest of all time in terms of comic book artists. And they get freaked out because they didn't realize that her arms are going to stretch that way. We see Robot Man just like clink, 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 and his red eyes, and he just says, flesh. And then he was joking, but they freak out, so they're looking for mom and dad. They come across him, so they think he's a mummy, so they get freaked out by that. And then we see, Negative Man. Someone lets kids in this place, and they end up in the torture chamber, and I get blamed again. Now this is also at the time where Beast Boy and Bumblebee and Vox, aka Mal Duncan, had left Teen Titans, and they were now a part of the Doom Patrol. This was like during Jeff Johns' run, which another phenomenal run at DC Comics. But this book really reminds me of the feeling I get with this new World's Finest that Mark Waid and Dan Mora had been doing, just touching on all corners of the DCU. This one was done a little bit at a more rapid pace, probably because each issue had different characters. It wasn't like, Flash and Doom Patrol won't be in the next issue. They're just in this one. But eventually everybody kind of comes together. But he just has a way of writing all these characters. Like, I don't know anybody that knows the DCU as well as Mark Waid does. He knows all the characters. He gets their voices down. He does, he can introduce them in such a way that like you feel like you've been reading their stories for years. And I love this too, like where we get into Dr. Calder's laboratory, like all the different experiments. He's already built these machines that he's going to try to do to help their accelerated metabolisms. And then we see this smoke, and Wally immediately thinks that it's a trap, but who is it? It's Metamorpho. So now we get Metamorpho in the mix. Then he flirts with Linda. He says, "Do you two need a room?" Like Mark Waid's dialogue is just so much humor, like I said, he just gets the personalities, and the way he gets Metamorpho here, especially because like we're looking at him and we see this like these swirls, which is what Shift, which was a offshoot of Metamorpho when he got exploded and became his own hero, has now been absorbed back into Metamorpho. So like his personality has kind of taken on those traits as well. That's why he's kind of, I'd say, a little bit more punchy with the jokes. And so, now we get some fighting with the kids and the Doom Patrol because they're not sure. They don't know who they are. Get this, like, nice little dinner scene. And, like, I love the looks on the faces of the kids. Like, they're just kind of weirded out. Why is her face stuck like that? And, like, oh, she's overcompensating. She used to be a movie star. Now she's convinced she's a weird outcast. She smiles to look pretty. So, like, you're getting all of this great characterization. And such a fun little dinner of like basically like the regular family coming to eat with the monsters or whatever, if you will. And so now they're going to try to see if they can help the kids. Metamorpho is helping along those lines in terms of like with his powers and elemental powers. Something goes wrong. Metamorpho is dissipated, and the kids now are left in this like in between. So Wally's pissed as this is going on. Like, only, Dr. Calder calls it out, only one of them can be saved. One of them can go into Robot Man and be safely contained. You have to choose. He's like, which one do you want to save? And you see Wally just standing there, awestruck, right? And he's like, no choice. Both. So now he's going to have Negative Man, and, he tells Iris, because of her being able to, like, attack him by solidifying her body and being able to touch him, like, she would know how to go into him and into the negative form. I love this scene of Elastigirl where she's like actually like shows it breaks, like she's breaking character, and then immediately everything's fine, all fine. And then we get the kids. Jay's in Robot Man, Iris is in Negative Man, and eventually like they get back into their own bodies. Everything is fixed, and we get this like word Megistus, which is kind of what the Challenges of the Unknown we're looking at. That'll be tied in with that, and it'll lead us into the next issue, which is going to be the Blackhawks with Hawkman. But here is really a great scene, because as they're laying in bed, they're back home, Wally is like just really like weirded out, right? Like there's something wrong. He's like, when Calder chose told him to choose, he chose. He didn't even have time to even let the question sink in. But for me, that moment was a month long. And I thought and thought and thought. And just before I got the negative man idea, I made a choice. And she says, which? And he's like, does it matter? That's crazy to have to choose between your children. Heart-wrenching. Again, very cool one and done story. Definitely want to check out more of these because I definitely know that I have some, but I'm missing some gaps. So it'd be kind of cool to kind of go through these and then see how they all collide at the end. But fun book, easy to find. Go seek it out online. And while you're at it, make sure you check out some of the other vids on the channel. Got a lot of Mark Waid stuff on here. Huge fan of his. And going to do some more dedicated George Pérez episodes as well. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.